Okay, let's jump right in because what's been happening in the global oil market lately, it's been one of the wildest rides we have seen in a long time.
I mean, just a few days ago, things seemed pretty calm, right? Oil prices were just kind of sitting there right below $90 a barrel, stable. But then, bam, almost overnight, prices just surged. We're talking a jump to over $100 per barrel. I mean, a leap that big, it sends shivers through the entire global financial system. And just when you thought that was the story, the market pulls a complete 180. Prices didn't just dip, they crashed, over 10% in a single day. Now, to put that in perspective for you, moves like this, they usually take months to unfold, not just a few hours. That's what's so crazy. So, all this volatility just makes you ask, right? What is really going on here? Well, that's what we're going to dig into. We'll break down why prices are swinging so wildly, get to the heart of the geopolitical tensions driving all of this, and look at what it could mean for the global economy. So, the key to understanding all this chaos, it's not on some trading floor in New York or London. Nope. You've got to look at a world map. Because the answer lies in one specific region that is the absolute heart of global energy: the Middle East. And when you look at the numbers, you'll see why it's so important. The Middle East holds nearly half. Think about that, almost 50% of the world's entire proven oil reserves. So when something happens there, it doesn't just make a few waves. It basically controls the tides for the whole energy market.
And that's the key, right? When things get tense in that part of the world, politically, the entire globe kind of holds its breath. This recent standoff we've been seeing between Iran and the US, especially around those critical shipping lanes, yeah, that's raising some serious fears about a major disruption to the oil supply. And the market, it's reacting to that fear.
But here's where it gets even more specific. Inside this already critical region, there's one single spot that's maybe even more important than all the oil fields combined. A place so critical, people call it a global economic choke point. What are we talking about? The Strait of Hormuz. It's this super narrow channel of water, and it's the only way out for all that oil from the Persian Gulf to get to the open ocean and to the rest of us. And this is why it's such a big deal. Get this, every single day, a full 20% of the world's oil, that's 1/5 of every drop we use on the entire planet, has to get squeezed through this one tiny little waterway. I mean, that is the literal textbook definition of a geopolitical choke point. If someone were to block that route, even for a little while, the global oil supply would just plummet. And prices, they would skyrocket, like almost instantly. And that's why the market freaks out anytime there's even a hint of tension right there. Okay, so this brings us to the big what-if question. You've got analysts out there warning that if things really escalate, we could see oil prices hit $150 a barrel. So, what would that actually mean for you and me? Well, it's like a chain reaction, a real domino effect. First, you get higher oil prices. That immediately makes it more expensive to transport, well, everything, from giant container ships to the truck that delivers your packages. That, in turn, drives up the cost to make almost every single product you can think of. And where does all that cost end up? It gets passed on to us, the consumer. The end result, in one word, is inflation. And look, this isn't just some abstract theory. History shows us there's a pattern here. Major shocks to oil prices have a habit of coming right before major economic downturns. Think about the oil crisis in the 70s, or that huge price spike right before the 2008 financial crisis. It's clear, energy prices and the health of the economy are just deeply, deeply connected. So, where do we go from here? Well, right now the market is basically watching and waiting for one of three possible scenarios to play out. And which path we end up on, that's going to depend almost completely on what happens geopolitically over the next few weeks. Okay, so let's break them down. First, you've got the most worrying one, escalation. This is where the conflict spreads or that all-important shipping route gets disrupted. If that happens, you could see oil blowing past $120, maybe even touching that scary 150 number. Then there's the middle ground, prolonged tension. This is basically a standoff. Things stay tense, but it doesn't quite boil over into a full-blown crisis. In that case, you're probably looking at prices staying in that $90 to $110 range. And then finally, the best-case scenario, de-escalation. This is where diplomacy works, things cool down, and prices could settle back into a much healthier $70 to $80 range.
So really, when you boil it all down, this is the thing to remember. The price of oil is never just about barrels and pipelines. It's about geopolitics. It's about power. And ultimately, it's about the stability of our entire global economy.
And that really leaves us with a final, pretty powerful thought, doesn't it? It just goes to show you how, in this totally interconnected world we live in, a conflict that's happening thousands of miles away can have a direct impact on the price you pay right at the gas pump. And that, right there, is what makes oil one of the most strategic and one of the most volatile commodities on Earth.